What kind of family looks a 16-year-old girl in the eye and says, "There's no room for you at our Christmas table"? You think you've seen drama. You think you've felt betrayal. But you haven't heard anything like this. This isn't about holiday stress. This is about a girl who sat alone in an empty house on Christmas Day because the people who were supposed to love her told her she didn't belong. And I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even argue. I just said, "Understood." But what I did next, that's what no one saw coming. Let me take you back to the moment it all fell apart. It was December 24th, Christmas Eve. The roads were icing over, wind biting through layers of sweaters and coats. Inside our house, everything looked like a Hallmark card. Stockings were hung. Tree was lit. Candles flickered. But I wasn't going to be there for Christmas dinner. I'm Dr. Rachel Monroe. Single mom. Our doctor. Christmas this year? I was covering a double shift 6 a.m. to midnight. And my daughter Lily? She's 16. She's not loud or flashy. Not the look at me type. She reads. A lot. She writes. She's smart. Sensitive in a world that doesn't always treat sensitive people well. So when my parents offered to have her over for the holiday dinner while I worked, I was grateful. At least, I thought I was. "Mom," she said that morning, clutching a tin of cookies she made for her cousins. "You're sure it's okay if I go? They invited you," I smiled. "It's family. Of course it's okay." She beamed. She didn't know. Not yet. I waved her off around 11 a.m. She drove our little blue Subaru up to my parents' house, big 2-story colonial with a wraparound porch. The perfect Christmas house. You know the type. Decorated to the nines. Garland wrapped around every post. Inflatable reindeer on the lawn. Monica, my sister, she coordinates the wrapping paper with the table settings. That level of perfect. It was supposed to be a normal Christmas. A traditional, warm, loud, joyful one. It wasn't. I was midway through my shift, 12 hours deep in fluorescent lights, hospital coffee, and emergency surgeries. A kid had swallowed an ornament hook. A grandfather had a heart attack. A couple showed up in matching ugly sweaters. One of them was in labor. Then, at 6:17 p.m., I got a text from Lily. Just 7 words. "Mom, they said there's no room." I stopped breathing. Read it again. They said there's no room. No room? It's not like this was a restaurant. Not like there were strangers at the table. She's their granddaughter. Their niece. Their family. I didn't know what that meant at first. I thought maybe she was joking. Maybe it was sarcasm. Maybe she meant no room in the car or the house is full. So I called her. She picked up on the 3rd ring. Voice small. Quiet. "Hi. Hey baby, what's going on?" "What do you mean no room?" She paused. I could hear the radio. Some holiday song playing in the background, Let It Snow, or something equally ironic. I got there. And Monica answered the door. She looked surprised. She said they weren't expecting me. That it was too many people. That there wasn't a seat. I stood there in the hallway of the ER, just frozen. Noise all around me. Nurses calling out codes. Machines beeping. Phones ringing. But in my head, everything was silent. "What did you do?" I asked. I told her it was okay. I got back in the car. "You left?" "I didn't want to make it weird." "You didn't want to make it weird." A 16-year-old. On Christmas. Apologizing for showing up to her own family's dinner. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm fine. I'll just hang out at home." Hang out at home. Alone. While I was stitching someone's scalp back together, and my family was carving ham and laughing around a glowing table, my daughter, my only child, was sitting in a quiet house with nobody. I didn't say anything. Not to her. Not to them. I just said, "Text me when you get home." And she did. 6:44 p.m. Home now. Drive was fine. Love you. No anger. No bitterness. She didn't even say she was sad. That made it worse. I couldn't focus the rest of the night. I finished my shift robotically. Patients came and went. A little girl with a broken wrist. An old man who just wanted company. A nurse asked me 3 times about a chart before I even heard her. I was too busy playing it all over in my head. Why? Why did they do that? Why would they tell her not to come? And how could they lie? Because when I finally got home, just after 12:30 a.m., I saw the pictures. They'd posted them. All over social media. Monica's account. My mom's. Table for 10. Turkey. Ham. For side dishes. 2 empty chairs. Empty. They lied to her face. There's no room, they said. While 2 chairs sat unused. It was never about space. It was about making her feel like she didn't belong. I walked into our house. It was dark. Silent. Except, on the dining table, Lily had set 2 plates. Laid out the silverware. Napkins folded into little triangles. 2 candy canes on each plate. She had prepared a table. For us. I found her asleep on the couch. Still in her Christmas sweater. Her phone on her chest, lock screen lit up with missed texts from friends. I didn't wake her. I just sat beside her, staring at that table. And I thought, this is what it means to be rejected by the people who are supposed to love you the most. But here's the thing. I didn't yell. I didn't drive over there and bang on the door. I didn't call them out in a long, rage-fueled voicemail. No. I played it quiet. Polite. Surgical. Because there's something people don't expect from the quiet one. We keep receipts. We remember. And when we move with purpose. So the next morning, while Lily was still asleep, I started planning. Because they thought they got away with it. But what came next would change everything. And no one saw it coming. What makes a family good? Is it the smiling Christmas cards? The formal dinners with polished silverware? The annual beach photos with matching white shirts and denim jeans? Because if that's all it takes, then we were golden. To anyone outside, my family looked perfect. My parents, George and Elaine, were the classic high school sweethearts. Married 40 years. Church-going, flag-flying, casserole-baking Americans. They hosted every major holiday and ran a household like a miniature kingdom, order, image, reputation. Then there was Monica, my younger sister. If I was the disappointment, Monica was the prodigy. She got straight A's, married a successful accountant, popped out 2 adorable blonde kids, and bought a house within 5 miles of my parents. She hosted wine nights. She coached the PDA. She was the kind of person who makes Pinterest boards for birthday parties. And then there was me. Dr. Rachel Monroe. Our surgeon. Divorced. Single mom. Still, apparently, the family's wild card, even though I put myself through medical school with a baby strapped to my hip. They never said it out loud. But they didn't have to. Every family gathering, every conversation, was just layered code. Must be hard being alone so much. Lily's so independent. Maybe too much? Monica made a new recipe from scratch. Oh, you brought store-bought rolls again? I wasn't dramatic. I didn't argue. I let it slide. For years. Because I wanted Lily to have grandparents. Cousins. That big, messy family experience. Even if I had to play the outsider to make it happen. But here's the thing about illusions. They shimmer. They shine. But they're thin as glass. And this Christmas? It shattered. After I set the table back at home that night, after I watched my daughter sleep alone on a couch when she should have been surrounded by warmth and noise and stupid cracker hats, I saw the truth. This wasn't the first time they pushed us aside. They'd been doing it for years. Quietly. Subtly. And I had let them. Let me take you back to the beginning. When I first told them I was pregnant with Lily, I was 23. Still in med school. Working insane hours. Broke. Exhausted. My mother stared at me in the kitchen and said, "Well, that's unfortunate timing." My father barely looked up from his paper. "Monica?" she said, "are you keeping it?" Like Lily was a decision. Not a person. I kept her, of course. Lily changed everything. She was born with this quiet magic, big eyes, always watching. Curious. Soft-spoken. A little serious for her age. She never screamed in tantrums. She just felt everything deeper. And they never liked that. You need to toughen her up. She's too emotional. Monica's kids don't cry over cartoons. But what they really meant was, she's too much like you, Rachel. I never told Lily how they treated us. I protected her from it. But kids know. She saw how we were left out of group texts. How her cousins got matching sweaters from Grandma, and she got socks. How Monica's family always got the center seats at the table. Still, she smiled. Still, she tried. She always tried. That's what kills me the most. The year before this, she made each of them handmade Christmas cards, wrote little poems, decorated them, put heart stickers on each one. Monica's husband opened his and said, "Well, that's sweet." Then tucked it under his plate and changed the subject. Lily pretended not to notice. I noticed, but I stayed silent. Why? Because I was taught to be grateful they even invited us. Because I believed that family means biting your tongue sometimes. Because I thought maybe if I played nice long enough, they'd see us differently. Spoiler alert, they didn't. And maybe that's what made this year's rejection sting the most. Because when they told Lily there was no room, they weren't making a last-minute logistical decision. They weren't overbooked. They were finally saying out loud what they'd always felt quietly. You don't belong. Let that sit for a moment. Imagine being 16, driving up to your grandparents' house. You've been practicing what to say all week. You made cookies. You wrapped gifts. You want so badly to be welcomed. Then the door opens. And instead of smiles, there's surprise. Instead of come in, there's, oh, you're here. That's not miscommunication. That's intention. And I saw it, clearer than ever. After that night, I pulled out an old photo album, one I hadn't touched in years. Page after page of holidays, birthdays, vacations. And something struck me. In most of them, Lily and I were on the edges. Literally. The far sides of couches. The back corners of group shots. Cut off in some frames. Monica's family? Center stage. Always. I don't think it was on purpose. Not at first. But over time, it became a pattern. And patterns tell the truth that words don't. So that night, as I flipped through that album with the sound of Lily breathing softly in the background, I made a decision. No more illusions. No more playing nice. This wasn't about revenge. It was about protection. Because if my daughter could stand there on a frozen porch, holding cookies no one would eat, being told she didn't have a seat at the table, then it was time to stop pretending they deserved a seat at ours. But how do you cut off your entire family? Without lighting a match so bright it burns your child, too? Simple. You don't make noise. You move in silence. Calculated. Precise. Unapologetic. And what I did next? Let's just say, it made sure they would never forget that Christmas. Not for the rest of their lives. Because what they thought was a quiet dismissal was actually the moment everything began to unravel. And it started with a message I never sent. What goes through a 16-year-old's mind when she's turned away at the door? Not yelled at. Not insulted. Just dismissed. The kind of cold dismissal that doesn't raise voices, just eyebrows. Let me show you. Because this chapter? It's not about me. It's about Lily. And the moment she realized the people she called family didn't want her. The sky was just starting to turn silver when Lily pulled into the driveway of my parents' house. A little nervous, but hopeful. The front yard was lit up like a magazine cover. Inflatable Santa. Projector snowflakes dancing on the shutters. A glowing nativity scene on the lawn. Lily's hands were shaking, not from cold, but excitement. She clutched a tin of gingerbread cookies. Hand-decorated. She stayed up past midnight the night before making them, even though I told her not to stress. She wore the red sweater I bought her 2 Christmases ago. It was too small now, the sleeves tugging at her wrists. But she loved it, because I gave it to her. She rehearsed what she was going to say in the car. Hi, Merry Christmas. Do you want help with anything? Thanks for having me over. She checked her hair in the mirror, took a deep breath, and rang the bell. The sound echoed behind the door. Then footsteps. Then Monica. Perfect Monica. Hair curled, makeup fresh, dress festive, smile tight. Oh, Lily. Hi. Lily smiled. Hi, Aunt Monica. I brought cookies. Monica looked at the tin like it was radioactive. That's thoughtful. Listen, sweetie. She glanced over her shoulder, lowered her voice. I didn't realize you were coming. Lily blinked. Grandma invited me. Right, but I don't think she checked with everyone. It's just, there are a lot of people here. We didn't plan an extra seat. Lily hesitated. I could sit at the kids' table? It's already full. And there's food allergies, you know how it is. Lily nodded slowly. Oh, okay. And Monica delivered the final blow. Maybe next year, when things are more organized. Next year. Not, coming anyway. Not, we'll make it work. Not, your family. Just a polite brush off. Wrapped in a smile. Monica glanced toward the driveway. You drove yourself? Yeah. You're good to drive back, right? That was it. That was the welcome. Not a hug. Not an invitation to come inside and warm up. Just an awkward doorstep exchange like Lily was a door-to-door salesperson. She stood there for another second. Then smiled small, automatic, and said, no worries. Merry Christmas. She turned, holding the cookie tin like a dumb prop, and walked back to her car. From the front seat, she could see through the dining room window. 10 chairs. One long table. Tablecloth. Candles. Food steaming. And 2 empty chairs. She watched Monica walk back in, say something to Elaine, our mother, who just waved it off with a shrug. Then Monica's kids burst into laughter over something stupid. Probably fart jokes or TikTok. The kind of noise you expect on Christmas. Lily just sat in the car, unmoving. No one came back outside. She turned the key. The engine started. The radio kicked on. Bing Crosby. I'll be home for Christmas. How's that for timing? She turned it down and started to drive. You ever try to hold back tears while driving on an icy road? It's a game of blinking fast, deep breathing, and convincing yourself it's no big deal. She told herself over and over, it's not personal. They're just disorganized. It was a mistake. But even at 16, Lily wasn't stupid. She'd seen the way they treated us. She knew. Halfway down the road, she pulled over into a gas station parking lot. Just sat there. A beat-up minivan parked next to her, stuffed with 4 kids in pajamas. One of them was holding a candy cane, giggling at nothing. It hit her then. Not the anger. Not even the sadness. The loneliness. There's a very specific kind of pain that comes from being near joy, but not part of it. She didn't call me. Didn't want to bother me at work. She just drove home. Slowly. Carefully. Cookie tin still in the passenger seat. She arrived just after 6:40 p.m. Parked. Turned off the engine. And sat for another minute, letting the cold sink in. When she walked inside, the lights were off. No music. Just silence. She slipped off her boots. Placed the cookies on the counter. Took off her coat. Then she saw the table. Set for 2. My doing. Before I left that morning, I'd set it out, napkins, forks, plates. I thought maybe we'd have a late snack when I got home. She hadn't seen it yet. She stared at it for a while. Then sat down. Didn't eat. Just sat. Alone. In silence. She texted me. Told me she was fine. She wasn't. But she never wanted to cause trouble. That was Lily's greatest strength and her greatest flaw. She would swallow discomfort to keep others comfortable. Even if it cost her. Eventually, she curled up on the couch. Turned on some Netflix. Picked an old movie we used to watch when she was little, The Polar Express. She didn't even finish it. Fell asleep under a blanket, cookie tin still untouched. That's how I found her. And in that moment, I swear to you, something broke inside me. Not like a snap. More like a slow, deep crack, like the kind you see in frozen lakes, right before they collapse. That's when I realized. This wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't an oversight. It wasn't a miscommunication. It wasn't too many people at a table. It was rejection. Deliberate. Measured. Cold. And Lily? She hadn't even told me the worst part. Not until later. Not until she showed me the cookies. One of the tins had been opened. Someone had taken a bite of a gingerbread man and then spit it back into the wrapper. Just left it there. No note. No thanks. No comment. Just a chewed-up mouthful of dismissal. That was the last straw. Because up until then, I could have written it off. Told myself it was a scheduling fluke. A lapse in communication. A classic Monica moment. But that was disrespect. And it wasn't going to go unanswered. Because you can mess with me. I've been through worse. But you do not mess with my daughter. Ever. So I let her sleep. Kissed her forehead. Tucked the blanket under her arms. Then I got to work. I pulled out my phone. Opened my contacts. And I typed out a message. One that should have been sent years ago. But I didn't send it. Not yet. Because I realized this wasn't about words anymore. This needed to be handled a different way. And what I did next would hit them harder than any message ever could. You ever type something out so honest, so raw, that your hands start shaking before you even finish the last sentence? That was me. Standing in the kitchen at 1:12 a.m., hospital scrubs still on, coat tossed over a chair, phone glowing in the dark. My daughter asleep on the couch behind me. My parents' house still lit up in my mind like a cruel postcard. I opened my messages. Dad. George Monroe. And I started typing. I didn't plan it. It just poured out. Do you have any idea what you did tonight? Backspace. Too soft. You humiliated my daughter on Christmas. Pause. Heart pounding. I kept going. She drove herself to your house believing she was wanted. She stood on your porch holding cookies she made herself. And you told her there was no room. I stopped. Because even that felt incomplete. How do you explain the kind of hurt that doesn't scream? The kind that goes quiet? I added more. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just left. And she sat alone in our house while you ate dinner under twinkling lights. I stared at the screen. My finger hovered over send. And that's when something strange happened. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel justice. I felt disappointment. Because suddenly, I realized something. If I sent this message, they'd do what they always did. Deflect. Minimize. Rewrite history. Well, that's not how it happened. You're being dramatic. It was a misunderstanding. You should have told us she was coming. They'd apologize without apologizing. Hurt without admitting it. And then what? They'd still be the same people. And Lily would still be the one who paid the price. So I deleted the message. Every word. Gone. Not because they didn't deserve to hear it, but because words weren't enough anymore. I needed to think differently. I turned around and looked at Lily. She was curled on her side, hugging a pillow, face relaxed in sleep like nothing bad had happened. That's the thing about kids like her, they don't show their pain right away. They store it. And it comes back later in ways you don't expect. I knew something right then with absolute clarity. If I handled this wrong, if I exploded, if I dragged Lily into a screaming match disguised as standing up for her, I'd hurt her more. So I did the opposite. I went quiet. No confrontation. No calls. No messages. Christmas Day came and went. My mom sent a generic text. Merry Christmas. Hope you both had a nice evening. I didn't respond. Monica sent a photo of her kids opening gifts. Didn't acknowledge Lily at all. I didn't respond. Silence can be uncomfortable, especially for people who rely on control. And my family? They relied on it heavily. The days after Christmas were strange. Lily didn't talk about what happened. Not once. She didn't ask why they did it. Didn't complain. Didn't cry. That worried me more than anything else. So instead of pushing, I watched. She washed dishes without being asked. Stayed up late doing homework she didn't need to do yet. Laughed at shows, but a little quieter than before. And then, 3 days later, she did something that broke my heart all over again. She asked, carefully, did I do something wrong? Let that sink in. A 16-year-old. Questioning her worth because grown adults couldn't be bothered to pull out an extra chair. I sat down next to her and said, no, you didn't. This had nothing to do with you. She nodded. But I could tell she didn't fully believe me. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about Christmas anymore. This was about a pattern. So I started making changes. Quiet ones. I removed my parents from Lily's school emergency contact list, changed pickup permissions, updated medical forms. I didn't announce it, didn't explain it. I just did it. Then I updated my will. People think revenge has to be loud, messy, public. But sometimes, the most powerful moves happen on paper. January came. No invites to New Year's brunch. No follow-up apologies. Just silence from them now. That was new. Because usually, by this point, someone would have called to smooth things over. They didn't. And that told me something important. They didn't think they'd done anything wrong. In their minds, this was over. They'd dismissed Lily. I'd gone quiet. Case closed. But they underestimated one thing. I wasn't angry. I was done. There's a difference. Anger wants a reaction. Being done doesn't. Being done plans. So I started planning. Not revenge. Not humiliation. Something cleaner. Something that wouldn't traumatize my daughter, but would still make a point so clear it couldn't be ignored. I looked at Lily's calendar. Spring break coming up. Friends' birthdays. School events. And then I thought about something Monica cared about more than anything else. Appearances. Image. The story she told about our family. And I smiled. Because I knew exactly how to dismantle it. Not by telling my side, but by letting the truth speak for itself. And the first step? Absolutely nothing. No posts. No comments. No explanations. Just silence. Because silence makes people talk. And sure enough, by mid-February, the cracks started to show. They say silence is golden. But sometimes, silence is terrifying. Especially for people like my parents. Like Monica. See, they were used to controlling the narrative. If something got uncomfortable, they'd smooth it over. Change the subject. Crack a joke. Offer pie. And if that didn't work, they'd make you feel crazy for even bringing it up. So when I didn't respond to their Merry Christmas text, didn't ask what happened, didn't press for answers, that scared them more than if I'd gone ballistic. Because silence meant I wasn't playing anymore. And when you stop playing, people panic. It started small. The first hint came New Year's Day. Elaine, my mother, sent a message that read, "Thinking of you girls today. Hope Lily liked her gift." Let's pause on that for a second. Gift? There was no gift. Nothing was handed to Lily on Christmas Eve. Nothing was mailed. Nothing was left at our door. Just silence and a chewed-up cookie. So I knew what this was. A test. See, people like my mom use faux kindness like a rope. They toss it out to see if you'll grab on, just so they can reel you back in. But I didn't bite. I left her on read. And that, to her, was louder than any accusation. 3 days later, Monica chimed in. Her text was a mess of forced cheer. "Hey, we're doing a lil post-holiday cleanup over here. Did Lily leave a sweater here maybe? Just checking. Hope you're both well." A sweater? No. Lily had never even made it inside the house. And Monica knew it. But this was another test. Pretend normalcy. Fish for a reply. Reset the timeline. Again, I didn't respond. I deleted the message. And that's when I knew for sure. They were scrambling. Not because they were sorry, but because the optics were slipping. Without me making a scene, they couldn't play victim. Without a reaction, there was no chaos to control. Just silence. And silence doesn't come with a script. Lily, meanwhile, was watching all of this from a distance. Not the texts, I kept those private. But she noticed the quiet. No calls. No check-ins. No follow-ups. She was confused. But something shifted in her too. She stopped asking about them. Stopped wondering when we'd see them next. She filled her time with better things. She started spending more time with a classmate named Naomi, an artist who wore a different color eyeliner every week and played violin on the weekends. They made playlists. Painted tote bags. Watched old French movies with subtitles. Lily was becoming herself again. But quietly. And in that quiet, I saw something healing. Then, around mid-January, I did something small, but seismic. I threw away our family Christmas album. Every photo. Every page. Gone. I didn't announce it. Didn't make a speech. I just pulled it off the shelf, flipped through the pages one last time, and put it straight into the trash. Why? Because it wasn't real. Those photos were a lie. A glossy scrapbook of staged smiles and polite exclusion. And I refused to keep it in our home like some twisted shrine. I replaced it with a blank journal. On the cover, a gold stamp that read New Traditions. And on the first page, I wrote, "This year, we start over." That same day, I filed new documents at Lily's school. Removed George and Elaine from all contact lists. Removed Monica. Blocked their phone numbers from the school system. They weren't her emergency anymore. They were the emergency. Again, I told no one. Let it sit. And it worked. Because the silence? It got loud. By early February, Monica broke first. She called me. Voicemail. Her voice was breathy. Stressed. Almost panicked. "Hey, Ratch. I don't know what's going on. We all kind of felt this distance after Christmas, and I really want to clear the air. I think maybe some things got misinterpreted, and I'm worried about Lily. I miss you guys. Can we talk?" There it was. The guilt-flavored manipulation. Wrapped in just enough fake concern to pass as genuine. But Monica didn't miss us. She missed control. She missed the part where she got to decide how we felt. How we responded. What really happened. But I didn't call her back. And you know what happened? Nothing. The world didn't end. The sun still came up. And for the first time in a long time, our house felt lighter. That silence? It was peace. But peace has a strange side effect. It makes you realize how long you've lived without it. And it makes you angry, retroactively, for ever believing you didn't deserve it. Around that same time, Lily brought home a flyer from school. It was for a spring mother-daughter brunch, hosted by the community center. I asked her if she wanted to go. She said yes immediately. We picked out dresses together. A soft green one for her, navy blue for me. We took silly mirror selfies. Laughed way too hard over her trying on high heels. It was joy. Simple. Clean. Real. And in the middle of that brunch, surrounded by women who laughed too loud and told long stories, I had an idea. An idea that would take everything they thought they knew about us and flip it. Because I wasn't going to stay silent forever. No. I was going to say something eventually. But on my terms. In a way they couldn't dismiss. In a way they couldn't erase or spin or twist. And the best part? They'd have to watch. From the outside. Because what came next was the invitation. They say revenge is best served cold. But I prefer it beautifully plated. On a brunch table. Surrounded by smiling faces. With not a single empty chair in sight. Let's rewind to February. After the school brunch, Lily came home glowing. That light, the one I hadn't seen in weeks, was back. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is what she deserves. Laughter. Comfort. Belonging. So I made a decision. We weren't going to grieve over a table we were pushed away from. We were going to build our own. Literally. I cleared out our dining room that same weekend. Donated the old table. Scratched, wobbly, soaked in years of awkward family silence. Ordered a new one online. Round. Oak. Expandable. It could seat 12 if needed. 12. Why? Because I wasn't building a table for just me and Lily. I was building one big enough for every single person who made us feel wanted. Nurses I worked with. Lily's friends. Our neighbor Rosa, who always brought tamales at Christmas. Even Mr. Thompson from down the street, who once lent Lily jumper cables in the rain and refused to take money for it. People like that? That's family. So I send out invites. Not a text. Not a call. Real invitations. Heavy cardstock. Foil pressed. Forest green with gold trim. The kind that said, yes, this is formal. Yes, you're important enough for this. And the name of the event? Second Christmas. Date, March 5th. Time, 2 p.m. Location, our house. Theme? Joy. Food, gifts, music, laughter. Everything you expect at Christmas. Just done right. Now, you might be thinking, did I send one to my parents? To Monica? Of course I did. Why? Because the point wasn't to exclude them. The point was to show them what inclusion actually looks like. Let me walk you through what they received. Front of the card. Second Christmas, because the first one missed something important. Inside, join us for food, family, and celebration with everyone who made this year worth remembering. Polite. Elegant. Not passive-aggressive, just honest. No guilt trip. No attack. Just a clear message. You were optional. And guess what? They responded. Sort of. Elaine RSVP'd with 3 words. We'll be away. No punctuation. No warmth. Not even a lie that sounded convincing. Monica? No reply at all. Just silence. Perfect. That meant I could move forward with 0 drama. And all the power. The planning was easy because it was joyful. Lily helped with decorations. We hung snowflake lights in the windows. Wrapped gifts for our guests, little handmade bookmarks, and cookies in jars. We created a playlist of every Christmas song we actually liked. No pretending. No tension. No pretending to laugh at Grandpa's weird political jokes. No side comments about Lily being too sensitive. No comments about how tired I looked after working 12-hour shifts. Just real people. Who showed up. And show up they did. March 5th rolled around, and every seat at that new table was filled. Lily's friend Naomi brought sugar cookies shaped like frogs wearing Santa hats. Rosa brought a crock-pot of tamales that had people crying happy tears. One of the ER nurses brought wine and a framed photo of her dog wearing reindeer antlers. We laughed. We ate. We gave each other gifts that meant something. At one point, I caught Lily leaning back in her chair, smiling, not fake, not polite, but real. Eyes soft. Shoulders relaxed. She looked safe. She looked home. And right then, I took a photo. Just one. Not a selfie. A photo of the table. The people. The glow of the candles. The joy. And Lily. Sitting exactly where she was supposed to be. Center. I posted it to my social media that night. Caption? Turns out there was always room for her, just not at the wrong table. No tags. No hashtags. No names. But you better believe Monica saw it. Because the next morning, I got a call. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. It was her. Her voice was tense. Choked. So, I guess this is what we're doing now. Posting things like that. Making digs. You know what, Rachel? You've always needed to be the victim. But you're not innocent here. You didn't even tell us you were upset. You just flipped a switch and shut everyone out. Over a misunderstanding. There it was. The gaslight in stereo. I saved the voicemail. Didn't respond. Because here's the thing. They still didn't get it. It wasn't about that one night. It was about every tiny cut leading up to it. Every dig disguised as concern. Every backhanded compliment. Every whisper behind closed doors. This wasn't a reaction. It was a boundary. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't negotiating it. But the best part? Lily was finally starting to feel that too. She printed the photo from Second Christmas and pinned it to her bedroom wall. Next to it, she wrote in marker, "This is what family looks like." Monica saw that post. So did Elaine. And now? The story they told, the one where they were the good family, was unraveling. Not because I exposed them, but because they exposed themselves. And what came next? Well, let's just say Monica doesn't do silence for long. And when she broke big. You ever hear someone unravel in real time? Not cry, not scream, but unravel. Voice cracking, breathing all wrong, words coming out fast, then slow, then sideways. That's how Monica sounded when she left voicemail number 2. It came 2 days after the second Christmas post went up. Blocked number again. I was in the break room at the hospital, sipping cold coffee and trying to answer 3 emails at once when I saw the missed call. Same timestamp as before. Same 1-minute voicemail. I listened to it with headphones in alone. And I swear to you, if you'd told me it was a performance, I'd believe it. Rachel, I don't even know what to say anymore. This is so unfair. You know Mom didn't mean to hurt Lily. You know we didn't mean for her to feel left out. And now you're posting things and letting everyone think we just threw her out? I'm getting messages, Rachel. People asking what happened. Do you know how that feels? Yes, Monica. I do. I kept listening. This is your fault too. You never tell us anything. You just disappear and then punish people for not reading your mind. You've always been like that. The voice started to waver. I miss my sister. I miss my niece. Why are you doing this? Why are you tearing the family apart over one night? One night. There it was again. That favorite phrase of people who never have to deal with consequences. One night. Like years of little rejections didn't matter. Like a 16-year-old driving home in the dark alone wasn't the result of a much bigger, much deeper problem. Like it was just bad luck. I didn't respond. Again. Not out of pettiness. Out of clarity. Because at this point, there was nothing to say. Monica didn't want to make it right. She wanted it to go away. But the thing about silence is, it forces people to fill in the blanks. And people like Monica? They don't know how to sit with discomfort. So they lash out. And lash out she did. First, passive-aggressive posts. Quotes on her Instagram story like, "Some people love to play the victim." Or, "Family isn't always blood. Thank God for chosen family." Subtle enough to be deniable. Loud enough for everyone to know who she meant. I ignored them. But others didn't. Because here's the thing about second Christmas. It wasn't just a dinner. It was a ripple. Photos got shared. People started asking questions. A few friends from town, mutuals from high school, church folks, messaged me privately. "I saw your post. I always wondered why Lily seemed so quiet at the family events. I'm glad she's smiling now." Another one. "You probably don't remember, but Monica once told me Lily was a little dramatic when she was like 10. That always rubbed me wrong. Just saying I see you. And I see her." And that shook Monica to her core. Because she wasn't just losing control of me. She was losing control of the narrative. The curated story of our perfect, polished family was cracking. And she couldn't fix it. So she did what people like her always do when they're cornered. She snapped. It happened on a random Thursday afternoon in March. I was off work. Lily was upstairs doing homework. And my phone rang. This time, she didn't block the number. I answered. "Hello." The second I said it, I heard the inhale. Like she'd been holding her breath since December. Then, "You need to stop." "No, hi." "No, how are you?" "Just an order." "You need to stop making people think we're villains," she said. "This isn't healthy. For anyone." "Funny," I said calmly. No one seemed worried about our health when Lily was left standing outside your door. Silence. Then, she showed up without notice. She was invited. She didn't text first. How were we supposed to know she was really coming? I didn't respond. She kept going. "Do you know how it makes me feel, seeing people share your photo like you're some kind of hero? Like we didn't care?" "That's not what happened." "What had happened, Monica?" She hesitated. I told her we didn't have enough space. Even though there were 2 empty chairs? That was for someone else didn't show. The air between us thickened. She tried to pivot. "You're punishing us. You're trying to make us look bad." "I'm not trying to make you look like anything." "Then why won't you just talk to us? Fix this." I said it softly, carefully, but with finality. "Because I don't trust you." Silence. Heavy, dead silence. Then her voice cracked. "For real this time. You really think we're bad people?" I sighed. "I think you hurt my daughter. And I think you never even tried to make it right." She didn't argue. Didn't defend. Just hung up. Just like that. Call ended. And in that moment, I didn't feel victory. I felt peace. Because finally, the pretending was over. The script was done. The story had cracked wide open. But there was still one thing Monica hadn't seen coming. Not a post. Not a voicemail. Something quieter. And way more permanent. Because remember what I said? This wasn't about getting even. This was about making sure it never happened again. And what came next? Let's just say, it hit harder than any photo ever could. Sometimes, you don't have to set a bridge on fire. All you have to do is walk away holding the match. And Monica? She was standing on that bridge, soaked in gasoline, wondering why everything felt so hot. Let me paint the picture. It's now early April. Spring in full bloom. Social media had moved on. People weren't still commenting or asking about Christmas. But something had shifted. The illusion? Gone. And that's what really ate at Monica. She couldn't say it out loud, of course. But she could feel it, subtle reactions at school pickup. The polite nods that came with a tight smile. The sorry, we're full responses when she offered to host something. People weren't buying it anymore. Because what she built, this image of a flawless family, perfect sisterhood, proud motherhood, it relied on silence. And now that silence was broken. Not by yelling. Not by a smear campaign. Just by the absence of us. Lily and I were simply gone from the narrative. We weren't at Easter brunch. We weren't in the group texts. We weren't tagging them in anything. We were ghosts with a glow-up. And people noticed. Noticed how Lily seemed happier. Noticed how Monica looked increasingly frantic. Even Elaine, our mother, started showing cracks. She sent me a long email. Subject line, "Can we please talk?" Inside? A novel. Half apology. Half defense. Sprinkled with the usual phrases like, "I never meant for anyone to feel left out." It's just hard juggling so many people at once. Maybe Lily is more sensitive than the others, and that's okay. You see it, right? The language of avoidance. Of blame shifting without naming it. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have words. But because I was done handing them explanations. I already explained myself for years. With gifts. With effort. With showing up over and over, hoping they'd see us. They saw us just fine. They just didn't care. And now? They didn't like how it felt to be on the outside. But they had to sit with it. Because healing? It's not just about cutting off the poison. It's about making sure it doesn't find a new way back in. And so I started building real things. Lily and I created our own holiday calendar. We made Second Christmas a yearly tradition with different themes. We hosted a summer cookout for the friends who showed up for us. We made a memory wall, photos, drawings, letters from people who mattered. And not once, not a single time, did we include anyone who had to think about loving us. Meanwhile, Monica was unraveling publicly. At one school board meeting, she tried to nominate herself for a volunteer award. Someone laughed out loud. Later, a mutual acquaintance told me. She used to talk like she ran the family. Now she's trying to convince people she still has won. Ouch! But true. Because here's what Monica didn't understand. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's absence. We weren't fighting her. We were ignoring her. And that's a death sentence for people like her. One afternoon in May, Lily came home with an envelope. It was addressed to her in Elaine's handwriting. She handed it to me wordlessly. Inside was a birthday card. Her birthday wasn't for 2 more months. The message read, "I miss you. I hope you'll give us a chance to explain." No money. No apology. No mention of what had happened. Just a vague hand extended to silence. Lily stared at the card for a long time. Then she folded it, slid it back into the envelope, and threw it in the trash. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just done. "I don't want anything fake anymore," she said. 16 years old. Wiser than most adults. She didn't cry. She didn't rant. She just walked back to her room and put on music. And I knew right then that I'd done the right thing. Because cutting someone off doesn't mean you hate them. It means you love yourself and your child. More than the fantasy you were trying to hold together. I was never trying to destroy a family. I was trying to protect one. Mine. Me and Lily? We were good. We were whole. And the people who left her alone on Christmas? They were the ones missing something. Because at the end of the day, they taught us the most valuable lesson we ever learned. That belonging is not about blood. It's about behavior. And just because someone's been at your table for years, doesn't mean they deserve a seat at it now. Still, the next Christmas was approaching. Our second Christmas. And something was coming I didn't expect. Because absence creates space. And into that space, something new arrived. Or rather someone. And they weren't coming to hurt us. But they were going to change everything. They say time heals all wounds. That's not true. Time just gives you space to see them clearly. And when you really look at what broke you, you stop blaming yourself for bleeding. It's been a full year now since the night my daughter was told, "There's no room for you at the table." A year since I worked a double shift in the ER, thinking my family was doing the right thing. A year since Lily drove home alone on icy roads, holding a tin of cookies she baked for people who didn't even open the lid. You'd think by now the pain would have dulled. But it hasn't dulled. It's transformed. Because pain can do one of two things: bury you or build you. And we used it to build. We built traditions that made Lily feel safe. We built rituals that weren't performative. We built a life around people who didn't need reminders to treat us like we mattered. Second Christmas became a thing. People looked forward to it. Even people we didn't expect. Nurses from the ER brought their families. Lily's classmates started asking about it months in advance. A local bakery offered to sponsor desserts. It was a table that kept expanding. And this year, it got even bigger. Because 3 days before second Christmas, I got a knock on the door. It was my cousin Jenna. We hadn't spoken in years. She used to be close with Monica. Then she moved away, got married, distanced herself from all the drama. And now here she was, on my porch, holding a pie. "Hey," she said. "Can I talk to you?" I let her in. She didn't say much at first. Just sat at the table and looked around. "This house feels different," she said quietly. "Lighter. Warmer." I waited. Then she said the thing that stuck with me. "I've been on their side for a long time. Mostly because it was easier. But what they did to Lily, there's no excuse for that." She paused. "And what you did after, the way you stayed calm, kept your head up, didn't go petty or loud, you showed all of us who you are." She reached into her purse and pulled out a letter. "I know it's late, but I wanted to say something. To both of you." It was a handwritten letter. To Lily. Not asking for forgiveness. Not explaining away behavior. Just acknowledging the hurt. And offering something real. We invited Jenna to second Christmas. She showed up. She brought her kids. She helped wash dishes. She laughed at the jokes. Sat with Lily. Talked about books. And when the night ended, she said, "This is what family's supposed to feel like." Not everyone came around, of course. Monica never showed. Never apologized. Never brought it up again. She posted a photo on December 25th of her own perfect family, smiling in front of the fireplace. Caption, "Just us. Just right." And honestly, good for her. Let her keep the illusion. Because we had the real thing. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Not even an apology. Because here's the thing. Apologies aren't the goal. Accountability is. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stop waiting for the people who hurt you to admit they did. We forgave ourselves. For staying too long. For hoping they'd change. For thinking we had to earn what we always deserved. You ever carry someone's silence like it's your fault? Drop it. You ever shrink your joy because it makes someone else uncomfortable? Stop. You ever sit quietly at a table where you're only tolerated, not celebrated? Get up. There's another table. And it has your name on it. So here's what I want to say, especially if you've ever been the extra chair. If you've ever walked into a room that was supposed to be yours, only to be met with tight smiles and polite rejection, it wasn't your fault. You weren't too much. You weren't a burden. You weren't uninvited because you lacked value. You were uninvited because they lacked the capacity to see it. But here's the best part. You get to choose again. You get to build your table. And this time, you make the rules. Set the seats. Invite the joy. Light the candles. Serve the love. You deserve that. And if you're watching this, wondering if anyone would show up? I would. We would. Because there's room for you here. There's always been room. They just didn't see it. But now, you do. So pull out a chair. We're just getting started. Fade to black. Call to action. If you've ever been shut out, let down, or made to feel small by the people who were supposed to protect you, drop a comment below. Tell your story. Not for pity, but for power. Because someone needs to hear that they're not alone. That their silence doesn't have to stay silent. That their family, real family, might just be waiting to find them. And if this story hit you in the chest, share it. You never know who needs to hear it today. And trust me, they'll remember who made room for them.